Hey guys, what's happening? So with this one, this is the spoiler talk. We're getting into it, and hopefully with the change of colors, you will know which is which. The other one's red, this one yellow. All right. So in the last video, I talked about my impressions on the film. I'm not gonna spend really any time on that here. Just talking a bit more specifically about certain scenes and probably what I thought of those instead of my full impression of the entire film as a whole and its relation to the other films. So the spoiler talk, can do that for a little bit. Then most of the time is really gonna be the mid-credit scene and the post-credit scene as well. And I do believe the post-credit possibly may have something to do with the particular hint. Like, you know, a lot of people said it's a waste, but it might not be a total waste, but we'll see. And so now for starters, Ant-Man and the Wasp takes place 2 years after Captain America Civil War, and pretty much the events that took place in the prequel comic or the Prelude. After that, we already knew going into this film, and they also mentioned in Avengers Infinity War, Scott Lang was on house arrest. We know that he is sentenced to 2 years of house arrest, which he's at the beginning of this film a few days away from. On top of that, after his house arrest, he has 3 years that he needs to do for probation or whatever. But the course of this film is really those last 3 days of the house arrest portion. So, okay, I gotta get this out the way. So certain things that kind of stuck out to me was, okay, Janet Van Dyne. We know in the quantum realm that time and space work differently, though for some reason, she knew she had been in there for 38 years. Not sure how that really worked out, if she had a calendar or what, or if she possibly figured it out by being connected to Ant-Man's mind, Scott's mind or whatever. But either way, with her being in the quantum realm for 38 years, how did she know she was there 38 years? And that's one of the things that kind of got me for a little bit, but I'm not too critical on that. The next thing I would say is the things we have in the first film with, you know, you had to be inside of a suit to either grow larger or get smaller, and you couldn't take off your helmet, you know, in the course of that. And in this film, like they would go super big, like they had to go back to his daughter's school. You know what I'm saying? And he got super huge inside the janitor closet, and he took the helmet off. And it was like, yo, how are you not like dead? You know what I'm saying? But I thought about it, and you know, I just be like searching for connections and things, and the only thing I could think of was perhaps that when Hank mentioned he made the modifications to the suits to where certain pieces that were there aren't there anymore, which is what they used to actually track down the office when it was taken and whatnot. That's one of the only things I'm thinking those modifications have upgrades and the suits have evolved. But we weren't really given a solid answer to how that was possible. Plus, just my personal opinion, if a suit is acting up like that, I ain't getting in it. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to be, you know, my body just turned super small, my head stuck out there, just this big old head roll out of the janitor closet, rolling down on all these elementary school kids. Like that's not a good look, man. But I feel like them doing that, like that whole scenario with being able to take off your mask or not, I feel like two purposes for them actually doing that. It was one, so they can get more face expression out of the actors for a lot of scenes in this film. Like they really wanted to do that, so they focused more on the benefit of it versus explaining how it's possible. And two, the scene, you know, with him running around the school at like half his size, total weight, but half his size, just running around the school in the little hoodie or whatever. I think it was kind of serving the purpose of getting that joke and also getting the facial expressions of the actors in particular scenes. Another thing too, okay, just growing and shrinking. I guess I'm just kind of getting these things out of the way first. So as far as the growing and shrinking in the vehicles, that I could deal with, because ever since the first film, as long as someone was inside of some type of containment, because the first thing I thought about was that little lamb, man. The little lamb from Ant-Man 1. The first thing I thought about was that lamb and it being inside that container, and that's how his name escapes me right now. now. But that's how they figured out in the first one that you can shrink somebody down as long as they're contained within some sort of confinement or whatever. And I just figured that's what they did for each one of the vehicles. Had the carriage suited out with the technology, so whoever is a passenger in the vehicle, it wouldn't be a problem. They wouldn't need a suit. So if the vehicle need to go small or large, boom, it works. So I didn't mind that so much. That didn't get to me so much. So another thing too, from the last video where I gave my impressions, I mentioned a Ferris Bueller type of feel to this film. And so for those of you who have seen Ferris Bueller, let me know in the comments if you got that reference. Because in the Ferris Bueller film, Ferris Bueller had to skip school. He didn't have to skip school. Ferris Bueller was skipping school. He was supposed to be at home, and every time somebody was either checking on him at home, he had some type of trick or some type of plan to make it seem like he was still at home. And that was very much Scott Lang in this movie. Like, he's supposed to be at home. You know, every time the feds were trying to check and make sure he was there, he was there. And he had some kind of way to get back home and do that. And to me, it made the entire film seem very much like a Ferris Bueller film. Like, I saw the movie with my brother yesterday, the first time, and that's one of the things that he had brought up as well. And I totally agree, because that's really the tone of this film. It's like more Ferris Bueller in that aspect of his relationship with the feds, much like Ferris Bueller in his relationship with the school principal and checking and making sure he's not, you know, faking being sick just to get out of school. That's really what that reference was. Just real quick on some of the scenes that really stuck out to me. I feel like there were certain times in the theater where I was laughing a bit harder than anybody else with certain things, and one of them, of course, the little Ant-Man running through the school looking like a little kid. But one part, this part didn't make me laugh so much, but when he ran out the school looking like a little kid and hopped in that mysterious van, I thought somebody was gonna see that and be like, what is that little kid doing running in that van? Like what is happening here? I guess that would have gave them more problems on top of the problems they already had, because this movie really, like, the villains in this film are more so obstacles than they are like true villains, you know, and that's more so to the weight of the film sitting on them saving Janet Van Dyne and getting her out, and Ghost trying to save herself, you know what I'm saying? So I would say, but yeah, some of the scenes that really got me in this one was when Lewis was doing the whole storytelling thing. I'm so glad that we got that again in this film. It reminds me of that X-23 video I did, which was inspired by Lewis, and I did that video, you know, talking about X-23 and her experience with Angel. I want to say that one was like before the incursion, one of my videos before the incursion, but it really reminded me how I had got that idea from that. But yeah, that Lewis doing that storytelling in that special way, I love those clips, and I hope it's something that never goes away from Ant-Man films if we get another Ant-Man film, or even another film with Lewis. But one of the things that also got me in that scene is when when they gave him the truth serum, and that was truth serum, man. So when they gave him the truth serum and he was telling everything about Scott Lang, the location, where the office building was, and dude was like, you know, literally tell me, like, where is he literally? And Luis was like, oh yeah, they in the woods. And Ghost popped up like, where in the woods? And everybody jumped up so crazy. Like, that was just hilarious to me. Like, they was super spooked. And the look on T.I. face, the one that works with X-Con, with Luis and Tip, he started singing that song. What's the one that scares the children and all that? He was just singing that song. He's like, Bali Baba, whatever the name was. I can't think of the name right now, but that was just too funny to me. But yeah, there was just a lot of good comedic moments, and even jumping back to the beginning of the film with Scott calling Hank and being like, man, I had this dream last night, and in this dream it just seems so real. In this dream I was your wife, and not like in a creepy kind of way, but like, what way is that not creepy? And it was like, at that point he was like, okay, let me not, you know, you do something stupid and you're like, man, why'd I do that? Like, this was so bad for Scott that he just broke the phone in half. Like, you felt like, man, nah, yeah, that was terrible. But I want to also get into the post credits, or the mid credit and the post credits. So as far as the mid credits and them saving Janet Van Dyne, who now has powers from the quantum realm, and I don't necessarily mind the quantum realm taking certain effects on her from being there for so long. I kind of seen it coming. Like after she helped Hank, when she did that, I said, okay, yeah, she's gonna be the cure for Ghost when she comes out. And then she did, she helped Ghost, and I was kind of like, okay, this is kind of coming together. Like, okay, how convenient. But I do feel like more so in the post-credit scene with her, Hank, Scott, and Hope, and getting ready to go back into the quantum realm. At that point, when they went and they sent Scott in there, it's kind of like a little joke, haha, they can't hear him, but he's in there, he's okay. He goes in there to absorb certain healing energy to help out Ghost when he comes out. And just before he goes in there, Janet Van Dyne tells him to be careful of certain things, and one of those things specifically was a time vortex. You know, watch out for the time vortex. Don't fall in. Either don't fall in or don't get sucked in, whichever. To me, it was just kind of like, okay, time vortex, you know, that's possibly a way that he could, you know, jump into intentionally to escape the quantum realm. But I kind of feel like it's possible. Either way, while he's in there, snap happens. Everybody outside is dusted, and I did not see that coming. Like I thought if anything, 2 of them would have been gone, and you know what I'm saying, and that would have been it. But at the same time, if you think about it, Janet just came back. For her to be snapped and taken away that quick, that just would have just erased everything that just happened in Ant-Man and the Wasp. But for either Hank or Hope to go back through losing another one of their family members, either each other or losing Janet again, like that would have been double devastation for either one of them. So I feel like it was almost necessary for all 3 of them to go away moving forward. But what's crazy about it though, so when that happens, Ant-Man is stuck in the quantum realm. So like I said, the time vortex he may have jumped into, and if he jumps into it, you know, it's possible that he goes back in time, warns all of them to go inside of the quantum realm because Thanos destroyed half of the universe. In theory, it's just our reality versus, we know, like Avengers 4 is going to explore multiple realities. Half the universe is really just the universe that we can physically travel to, like hop in a spaceship and actually travel to a spaceship, like actually in a spaceship. But you know what I mean. So that's more so what I believe that half the universe is gone kind of thing is. But with Ant-Man doing that, I really don't believe it's going to go down that way, because if Ant-Man were to go back a little bit further in time and come back, he wouldn't know to warn them. Like he won't know a lot of that stuff until he meets up with the Avengers and they inform him of what happened in Avengers Infinity War. Because the way the post credits played out, it's not like it doesn't seem like they even know. And I was thinking, like, with the time frame rolling back from the snap in Avengers Infinity War and thinking back to the invasion, it's like if Ant-Man was on house arrest, like Captain America said when they met back up at Avengers Tower, and which is why they didn't call him to come over. But if he was under house arrest and he saw this invasion take place, like, why didn't he show up? Why didn't he show up? Because he had a suit. He hid the suit in the trophy, so it's not like he didn't have a suit to just suit up and show up. And like, so what, you're on house arrest? Like, there's an invasion. You know what I'm saying? Like, you might need to show up for that. Like, you don't have a house to be arrested in if this invasion, like, you know, wipes everything out. I still don't understand that. Even rolling back in time, because Avengers Infinity War was nearly real time going through most of the way. And Ant-Man and the Wasp was, for the most part, the course of 3 days. And we really don't know the time between the post-credit scene and the actual ending of the film. Like, how long has he been off house arrest? Yeah, it's pretty hard to tell. Like, even with the smaller machine that takes him into the quantum realm, is that a new one they built, or did they just shrink the old one? And let me know some of you guys' thoughts down in the comments, because I'm still even trying to figure some of this out. But either way, so with that in mind, I don't think that he just jumped into that time pocket or whatever and just went back in time and chose specifically where in time he was going to go and just got lucky and came back a few minutes. Because even like Janet was saying, if they missed that opportunity that they had, that window, is thousands of years. That if you miss that window, thousands of years could go by, or thousands of years to the next one, next opportunity. With time moving different there, supposedly, it's possible that, you know, I think it's not as possible, not as likely for him to just jump in and luckily come back at the right time. So I feel like that's where kind of the post-credit comes into play, in my opinion, because I kind of feel like with the ant that was playing, and I'm not sure if that ant got a name, Antonio Banderas, whatever, Anthony Jr., whatever, but I feel like that ant that was playing, when the ant stopped, you know, it's possible that that ant may have still had communication to that ant in our world, in our reality, and called the ant to come back to pull him out of the quantum realm. And because, you know, they can tell the ants, you know, what they need to do specifically, even to the point of building the machine that was able to get him in there. Yeah, I think that's more of a possibility, or more likely, or more, it makes more sense than him just jumping into this random storm or random vortex and just going to the right spot. I think it's more likely that that happens and he comes back to this time, in the present time, and finds Tony Stark and shares with him the research. And it's more likely that Goliath and Ghost help him team up with Tony and make this more into something that could travel through time and save everyone else. And with that, even Goliath was the one that had a lot of the ideas, who saved or really saved the day in this film, because a lot of stuff that he combined with Hank really made the solutions in a lot of different points, because together they come up with the idea that would find the office, you know, by triangulating the location of the office where it was at. And I feel like with his ideas connected with Hank Pym's research and Hank Pym's progress will both come together and meet with Tony Stark and come with some type of solution. I think that's more likely. And then you also have another thing. So with the connection between Janet, with her and Scott, and more towards the point when she was helping them fix the coordinates to get out, like I feel like that's almost a hint towards like cosmic awareness. And if that is a hint towards cosmic awareness, it's like, okay, so is it possible that, you know, that Scott Lang has a touch of cosmic awareness, or even Tony Stark by having certain dreams? Like if in Ant-Man and the Wasp, this was Janet Van Dyne reaching out to Hank Pym, giving him these dreams, is there somebody reaching out to Tony Stark that gave him the different dreams of the future that he keeps seeing come to pass? And if so, who is that? I don't know, it could be anybody. Like if it's to the point to where somebody like Thanos, his grandfather, Kronos, is reaching out and trying to assist the Avengers, possibly, who knows? But that's going way too deep. So I think the thing is you have it's more so a thing of Scott possibly communicating and getting out, or even coming out the same way that he did in the first film. You know, growing larger and coming back through the same way that he got out before, but ending up in a different place. That's possible as well. But I believe his knowledge of the time vortex will help, because he learned that from Janet, and Janet telling him that's going to get back to Tony Stark. And when they bring all these ideas and this knowledge together, and they come up with the way how to time travel, it'll be an accumulation of everybody's experiences and ideas through the execution of Tony Stark. But that's really my thoughts on that. So with that being said, I feel like the post-credit, not the mid-credit, but the post-credit probably wasn't a total waste, just in theory. But I feel like this is like sparking a few more different ideas. It's going forward into phase 4 with what we got from Avengers Infinity War, possibly even later with what we get from Captain Marvel. But definitely adds a bit more onto Avengers Infinity War with what we learned about the quantum realm, which is at this point, aside from the time stone, is the only way that we know of as far as time travel, which I think Kronos can do too, Thanos' grandfather. But either way, those are my thoughts. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below, and we'll do it again on the next one. Oh, and by the way, I will be all in the comments throughout the weekend, give you guys a chance to see the film, because I know some of you guys won't be able to see the film till Sunday. Some of you even said Monday or whatever. So I'll be back throughout the beginning of next week, checking on the comments through, I say Tuesday, because I think that's the latest that any of you guys hit me in the comments to let me know about. So I'll check that out, and we'll do it again on the next one. All right, later.